So, by now you've probably seen the massive headlines shouting that SpaceX just pulled off the biggest, most valuable IPO in human history. But honestly, if you aren't a guy who spends all day looking at stock charts, you're probably wondering, what the hell does an IPO actually mean? Let's strip away the corporate nonsense and look at it simply. For the last 24 years, SpaceX was a private company. Think of it like an exclusive, high-stakes VIP house party. The only people allowed inside were Elon Musk, a few massive billionaire investors, and early employees. Regular people like you and me couldn't just walk in, hand over some cash, and buy a piece of the rocket company. It was completely locked down. But an IPO, which stands for Initial Public Offering, is the exact moment that private house party opens its doors and turns into a massive public stadium event. It's the very first time the company offers its shares to the public. They essentially slice the company up into millions of tiny digital pieces called stocks, list them on an exchange like the NASDAQ, and say, all right, world, anyone can buy a piece of the spaceship now. Companies do IPOs every single year. It's how businesses raise cash to grow. But what SpaceX just did on June 12th, it completely shattered the financial universe. Usually, when a giant company goes public, they might try to raise a few $billion. The previous record holder was a massive oil company called Saudi Aramco, which raised a crazy $25 billion. But SpaceX, they didn't just break the record, they completely vaporized it. In a single night, SpaceX launched their stock under the ticker symbol SPCX, sold over 550 million shares at $135 apiece, and raised a staggering $75 billion in pure cash. That is the single largest public stock debut in human history. And the moment the trading doors opened, investors went into an absolute frenzy. The demand was so insane that the stock spiked nearly 20% on day one, closing above $160 a share. By the closing bell, the stock market put a collective price tag on SpaceX of over $2.1 trillion. Honestly, it is a historical anomaly. To put this in perspective, if SpaceX were a country, its total value would make it one of the top 10 largest economies on the entire planet Earth. They are now worth more than the entire annual economic output of wealthy nations like Australia, Brazil, or Canada. Think about the biggest legacy companies you've known your whole life. SpaceX is now worth significantly more than the entire value of Google's parent company, Alphabet. It completely smokes Elon's car company, Tesla. It is worth more than Walmart, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Netflix combined. So, why did the world just throw $75 billion at a rocket company in a single night? What has SpaceX actually done to make people believe a single business is worth $2 trillion? It's simple. They didn't just build bigger rockets. They quietly took over space. See, most people look at SpaceX and think about those massive Starship rockets launching into the sky on YouTube. And yeah, that's cool for the cameras. But the real reason investors fought like crazy to get into this IPO isn't just the metal shooting into the clouds. It's the invisible monopoly they are building around our space. Right now, through their Starlink program, SpaceX owns and operates more than half of all the active satellites circling the planet Earth. Think about the gravity of that. They don't just provide internet to a few rural houses. This company literally owns the invisible digital grid that connects the modern world. If a shipping company wants to track its cargo across the ocean, they use SpaceX. If a military wants secure communication during a crisis, they rely on SpaceX. And if a government or a massive corporation wants to launch their own satellite into orbit, they literally have to line up, hand over millions of dollars of their own currency, and ask Elon for a ride, because SpaceX completely dominates global rocket launches. But it goes even deeper. Investors didn't just buy into rockets and satellite internet during this IPO. They bought into a massive interconnected AI machine. SpaceX just completely merged their space infrastructure with artificial intelligence. They are building massive, state-of-the-art AI data centers right into their satellite networks. Think about how wild that is. On Earth, AI data centers are facing massive electricity shortages because they burn through insane amounts of power. But SpaceX's solution? Put the data centers directly into space, running on pure, unlimited solar energy, floating right above our heads. They used the billions from the IPO to fund a closed, perfectly looped monopoly where his rockets launch the satellites, his satellites beam down global internet, and his orbital artificial intelligence handles the data. No other company or government on Earth can even attempt to compete with that. So while the news focuses on the stock price numbers, the real shift is completely rewriting how the world works. SpaceX has officially entered a tier where a private corporation holds more operational leverage over global communications and global security than actual world governments. Think about it. NASA relies on them, the military relies on them, and global tech relies on them. They have essentially become a private branch of global infrastructure. But right now, the real question is entirely up to you. When a single private company gains a $2 trillion monopoly over space and the internet, is that a good thing because private innovation moves way faster faster than slow government programs? Or is it terrifying that a private boardroom now holds more power over the future of humanity than elected nations? Take a second, go down to the comments and drop your honest thoughts on who should control space. Let's talk about it.